Okay, as I said, the suprarenal gland is above the kidney. So, as you know, the kidney is retroperitoneal. So, then even the suprarenal gland or the adrenal gland should be retroperitoneal. So, this suprarenal gland is retroperitoneal along with the kidney, and as we can see, it lies in the upper pole of the kidney. So, the upper pole of the kidney is not free, but it is occupied by the suprarenal gland. And if you see the color, usually it will be yellowish in color. Okay, so you should be able to differentiate between the fat which is covering the kidney as well as the suprarenal gland. Sometimes it becomes if you see superficially it looks similar, so you should be careful when you're cutting the suprarenal gland. And they are covered by the renal fascia which also covers the kidney. Kidney, as you know, it is covered by, actually there are coverings, four coverings. Okay, the capsule will be tight and it will be totally covering the kidney. Then we have the retroperitoneal fat, then as well as the renal fascia. Okay, and along this renal fascia which is covering the kidney is also covering the suprarenal gland. So the renal fascia which covers the kidney also covers the renal fascia. So when we cut a fresh section of the adrenal gland, it shows two layers. One is the yellow layer, which is outer layer, which we can see here. This is called as the cortex, which is called as the adrenal cortex to be more specific. And inside we have the medulla, which is specifically called as the adrenal medulla. So it has two parts. The outer part will be called as the cortex and the inner part will be the medulla. This differentiation is important because later we'll see how it will have different functions as well as secretions. The right suprarenal gland, if you see anatomically, is pyramidal in shape. So if you see here, it looks like a pyramid, the right side suprarenal gland. But the left, if you see, it is not pyramid, it is crescentic shape. So there is difference in the shape between the right and the left. So if you see pyramidal shape, it will be the right adrenal gland, and if you see the crescentic, crescent means half moon shape, then it will be like the left adrenal gland. Okay, the right adrenal gland is pyramidal in shape and caps the upper pole of the right kidney. If you see, it will be sitting just on the top of the kidney, but not so about the left. It is crescentic in shape and it extends along the medial border of the left kidney from the upper pole. So, starting from the upper pole, this left suprarenal gland, which is crescentic in shape, will go down and covers the medial border of the left kidney. This is the medial border and this is the lateral border of the kidney. So this is the medial border and lateral border. So the right adrenal gland is pyramidal in shape. It sits only on the upper pole, but the left kidney is left suprarenal gland is crescentic in shape and it covers the medial border of the left kidney also, along with the upper pole. Okay, so that is the difference anatomically. Now coming to the blood supply. Okay, I had told you briefly about this in the practicals. So it is supplied by the three arteries. One is the inferior phrenic artery, then the aorta, as well as the renal artery. So there are branches coming from the phrenic artery. So phrenic artery is that artery which will be supplying the dome of the diaphragm. Phrenic is the other name for the diaphragm. So this is the inferior phrenic artery, which is a branch from the abdominal aorta is here. Okay, so it is a branch from the abdominal aorta which is supplying the diaphragm, also supply the suprarenal gland. Okay, so these are the branches coming from the phrenic artery. The arteries are called as, they have specific name, they are called as the suprarenal arteries. So which are coming from the phrenic artery will be called as the superior suprarenal arteries. Then there are branches which are coming directly from the aorta. So if you see here, okay, there is the, okay. So if you see the aorta, this is the aorta, and it will be giving direct branches. So these are coming from the aorta directly. These are called as middle suprarenal artery. Middle suprarenal artery. If you see here, you can see here is the middle suprarenal artery. Here is the superior suprarenal artery coming from the phrenic artery. Then there are branches coming from the renal artery. This is the renal artery. So it will be giving branches. These are called as the inferior suprarenal arteries. So if the branches are coming from the phrenic artery, inferior phrenic artery, then it will be the superior suprarenal arteries. If they are coming directly from the aorta, then they are the middle suprarenal arteries. And if they are coming from the renal artery, then they are called as inferior suprarenal arteries. So three arteries will be supplying the suprarenal gland on either side. Coming to the venous drainage, it will be by two types of veins. So they will be draining into the inferior vena cava on the right side and into the left renal vein on the left side. Okay. So because the inferior vena cava is more toward the right side, so if you can see this, that it will be drained by direct branches. These are called as the superior suprarenal veins. Superior suprarenal veins, which I will be draining on the inferior vena cava directly, because the inferior vena cava is more on the right side. But if you see the left suprarenal gland, it is much more away from the inferior vena cava as well as the aorta. So that will be draining into the the left renal vein here, left renal vein. Okay. So on the right side, the venous drainage will be into the inferior vena cava, and on the left side it will be draining into the renal vein, because the inferior vena cava is very far from the left kidney and the left suprarenal gland. So it will be draining into the inferior vena cava, and from there into the left renal vein, and from there into the inferior vena cava. So that is the difference between the venous drainage on the right side and the left side. Now coming to the lymphatic drainage. Lymphatic drainage is to the para-aortic group of lymph nodes, which are also called as lateral aortic. Lateral aortic or para. Para means beside, which is nothing but the lateral. So just beside the aorta, there will be the group of lymph nodes here on either side of the aorta. There will be group of lymph nodes. These are called as the lateral aortic, or they are also called as the para-aortic group of lymph nodes. Coming to the nerve supply, it is by the preganglionic sympathetic fibers derived from the splanchnic nerves, okay, which will supply the gland. Most of the nerves end in the medulla of the gland. This is very important. See, if you see here, usually the nerve supply is by the postganglion fibers. Ganglion will be outside and the postganglion fibers. But if you see here, this is very typical that in case of the suprarenal gland, it is supplied by the preganglionic sympathetic fibers, because the postganglion fibers itself form the medulla. We'll see later when we study the development. At that time, we'll clearly see why it is supplied by the preganglion. This is very typical, special only for the suprarenal glands. If not, all other what do you say as the autonomic nervous system is all parts of the autonomic nervous system is usually supplied by the postganglionic fibers. But this is the suprarenal gland is special that it is supplied by the preganglionic fibers. Now coming to the development of the suprarenal gland. If you see the cortex development, it is from the coelomic epithelium between the dorsal mesentery of the gut medially and the gonads laterally proliferate to form the fetal cortex. If you see here, here is the fetal cortex developing of the suprarenal gland. Between the coelomic epithelium, here will be the coelomic epithelium, and the dorsal mesentery. This is the dorsal. Ventral mesentery means in the front. This is the dorsal mesentery. Okay. So coelomic epithelium between the dorsal mesentery of the gut medially and the gonads laterally. Okay. And initially they form the fetal cortex. Fetal cortex, because there will be adult cortex later. So you should know, initially during development it will be developing as the fetal cortex. Okay. 1 week later, the coelomic epithelium proliferates to form the definite cortex, which surround the fetal cortex. If you see here, initially there will be formation development of the fetal cortex of the suprarenal gland. Later it is pushed inside, and there is development of the adult cortex from the same coelomic epithelium. Now coelomic epithelium, this fetal cortex is pushed to inside. Now it is shown in the red color. Now again there is proliferation of the epithelium here to form the definitive cortex, or it is also called as the adult cortex. Now this adult cortex goes and surrounds the fetal cortex. Okay. So 1 week later, the coelomic epithelium proliferates to form the definitive cortex, which is also called as, here it is shown as the adult cortex, both are same, which surrounds the fetal cortex. Fetal cortex is here. So this adult cortex or the definitive cortex will surround the fetal cortex. As you can see in this picture, this is the fetal cortex and the definitive cortex is surrounding it. Later what happens? There is formation of the medulla. So this fetal cortex becoming small, starts becoming smaller and smaller, and the adult cortex will grow much more larger, and that will stay, and this fetal cortex totally disappears. Now coming to the medulla, medulla cells from the neural crest cells, which are actually from the ectodermal part, will migrate and invade the medial aspect of the cortex and become arranged into cords and muscles that form the medulla. So these cells, if you see here, these are the neural crest cells, which are also called as the chromaffin cells. Now they are slowly migrating from the ectoderm, so from where they are derived, and they start migrating into the this part, which toward the fetal cortex, and now they go deep into inside the fetal cortex, and then these are called as the chromaffin cells, and they form the medulla. If you see here, these are the chromaffin cells coming here, and they are slowly adopting the area where the fetal cortex is there. Okay, so this is the fetal cortex, and now the chromaffin cells are migrating. Now there is formation of the adult cortex. So the adult cortex will fully form, and the fetal cortex totally disappear, and the medulla is filled by the chromaffin cells, which are nothing but the neural crest cells. Okay. So these are, because they are coming from the neural crest cells which form the brain. So these chromaffin cells, they themselves acts as the postganglionic fibers. These chromaffin cells, as I said, they are derived from the ectoderm. There are neural crest cells, means they are developing from the brain. So that's why these chromaffin cells or the neural crest cells, which are developing from the ectoderm, these act as the postganglion fibers. That's why we say that this part of the gland is supplied by the preganglion fibers, because the medulla, which is deriving from the neural crest, acts as the postganglion fibers. Okay. Cells from the neural crest ectoderm migrate and invade the medial aspect of the cortex and become arranged into cords and masses, and they are defined as the medulla. After birth, the fetal cortex disappears. As I said, this fetal cortex totally disappears, and the adult cortex will develop. Okay. After birth, the fetal cortex disappear and the gland becomes much more smaller. Okay. The definitive cortex divides into three zones. Now, if you see here, this is the definitive cortex. Now it forms the main cortex, and now it is divided into three zones. So there are three zones within the definitive cortex, and inside we have the medulla, which are nothing but the chromaffin cells. Okay, so that is the development of the whole of the uh, what you can call as the adrenal gland or the suprarenal gland. Now coming into much more details, you might have studied the histology. Some details will give it here, okay, which are anatomically important. Okay, we'll not go into the detailed histology, but just basic anatomy part we'll discuss here. So coming to the adult cortex, that is the adrenal cortex here, which is now formed into three zones or three layers. So there are three zones which are called as the zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, and zona reticularis. There are three layers from outside to inside. This is the zona glomerulosa outside. So this part here, if you see histology at the time, you'll see this is how it looks like. So this is the zona glomerulosa. Zona is nothing but the zone or the layer. Okay, it is looks granular. That's why it is called as the granulosa. Then the next layer is the zona fasciculata, the largest layer here in the cortex. This is the zona fasciculata. Zona after the capsule, this is the glomerulosa and the fasciculata, the huge capsule layer here. So that is the fasciculata. This is the zona glomerulosa. This is the capsule outside, and this is the zona glomerulosa. This is the zona fasciculata. Then inside that, the deepest layer will be called as the reticularis, zona reticularis, because it looks like in the formed in the form of reticular formation, okay, in the form of chains and other things. So this is called as the reticularis. Okay, so these are the three layers: zona, glomerulosa, fasciculata, and the reticularis. So the zona fasciculata is the largest. It forms almost 80% of the whole cortex. And the zona glomerulosa, this will be 15%, and the reticularis is the smallest, almost 5%. So the zona glomerulosa is directly under the capsule. Here is the capsule. Just deep to that will be the zona glomerulosa. Here also you can see the capsule. Deep to that is the glomerulosa. Then the zona fasciculata is the mid zone, and the zona reticularis is the innermost. So here, this is the actual adrenal cortex with the capsule outside, and this is the zona, the whole of the cortex, and inside, deep inside is the medulla. Okay. So they now coming to the medullary part. So here is the medulla. Okay. So it is typical because it is made up of some special cells called as the chromaffin cells. These can be seen only with special staining. Okay. So here, if you can see here, this is the special staining of the medulla, where you can see the chromaffin cells. So this is the how it looks like. Okay, this is the diagrammatic view. So this is the capsule, this is the zona glomerulosa, fasciculata, the largest layer, reticularis is small layer, then deep inside is the medulla. So the chromaffin cells, which are polyhedral cells, if you see here, they are totally different in shape compared to the other cells of the cortex. So they are polyhedral cells arranged in cords or clumps. If you can see here, they are arranged in the chains or cords or clumps, sometimes in groups, sometimes in chains. They are the medullary cells arise from the neural crest cells. As we saw, they are developing from the neural crest cells. So they are part of the brain itself or the nervous system. Have secretory granules. If you study them more in detail in the histology, you will see the secretory granules containing the catecholamines, especially the epinephrine as well as the norepinephrine. Okay. Proteins called as the chromogranins, dopamine, as well as the ATPs. Okay. So they are stained with potassium dichromate. So they are, as I said, they are specially stained with special stain called as the potassium dichromate. That's why they are called as the chromaffin cells, because they take special stain. Chromaffin. There are two types of cells: chromaffin cells, chromophobes. Chromophobes means which avoid the color staining. Okay, chromaffin cells take up stain. So they take up stain with a special stain called as the potassium dichromate. Okay, this is how it looks like. And along with that, you can also see some ganglion cells, because I said they are developing from the brain, so they will also have the ganglion cells. Then there is also the reticular fiber network arranged by these cells, as well as the reticular formation outside reticular cells, as well as the reticular fibers, to be more specific, as well as the capillary network, because this is the endocrine part. So it will be secreting very important hormones. So it will be filled with capillaries. Wherever you study the any endocrine gland, they are highly vascular. Okay, so that's why they will have capillary networks within them, so that they can drain their hormones or secretions. Now coming to the hormones secreted by the adrenal cortex and the medulla, how they are acting as the endocrine glands. Okay, so we'll try to study them. So the adrenal cortex will secrete three, as we know there are three layers. So three layer, each layer will be secreting one special hormone. Okay, one or more hormones. Okay, so the adrenal cortex, the outermost covering will be as we have seen, that is the zona glomerulosa. So this zona glomerulosa, okay, secreted by the zona glomerulosa is the hormone called as the aldosterone. Aldosterone is the hormone secreted by the zona glomerulosa. Aldosterone is a mineralocorticoid. What is the function of this aldosterone? This will maintain the electrolyte balance, especially the sodium potassium balance, to control the blood pressure. So whenever this aldosterone is secreted, it helps in the maintenance of the electrolytes as well as the blood pressure. They stimulate reabsorption of the sodium from the distal convoluted tubule of the kidney, gastric mucosa as well as the salivary gland. If there is any disturbance in the sodium and potassium level, then this stimulation of the aldosterone will help in the rebalance of the sodium level so that the electrolyte balance is maintained. Okay, and this main control is by the angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2. The next hormone is the glucocorticoids, which is also called as the cortisol or the corticosterol. Okay, so this is secreted by the largest layer in the cortex, that is the zona fasciculata. So what is the function of these glucocorticoids? Increases the availability of the glucose as well as the fatty acids, especially in response to any kind of stress. Whenever there is response, any stress, then in response to stress, the glucocorticoids is secreted, and that helps in the increase in the quantity of glucose as well as the fatty acids. It is the main control is by the pituitary adrenotropic corticohormone (ACTH), the adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is secreted by the pituitary. Okay, we have already studied the pituitary, and you know where exactly it will be secreted. Then the third hormone secreted is the androgens and even some cortisols, which are secreted by the deepest zone in the cortex, that is the zona reticularis. What is the function of this? It will help in the similar to the hormone secreted by the zona fasciculata, and it does the function similar to that of the zona fasciculata. That is, it will increase the level of the glucose as well as the fatty acids. So these are the three hormones secreted by the three layers. Aldosterone secreted by the zona glomerulosa, the zona fasciculata will secrete the glucocorticoids, and the zona reticularis will secrete the androgens as well as even some cortisols. Okay. Then the hormone secreted by the medulla is two hormones, which are the epinephrine and the norepinephrine, which is also called as the adrenaline as well as noradrenaline. Both are catecholamines. Okay. What is their general function? There's their acute response to stress. Whenever there is stress, acute response, then there will be secretion of both the adrenaline as well as the noradrenaline. The main control is by the preganglionic sympathetic innervation. As we know, it is not controlled by the hormones, medulla, because medulla is developing from the nervous system. This is very important, you should remember. So when you correlate the development with the functions as well as secretion, then you will understand better. So this is mainly controlled by the preganglionic sympathetic innervation, because the medullary cells themselves act as the postganglionic fibers, but all other are controlled by the hormones here. So all these are controlled by the hormones, but which is the cortex part, but the medulla is controlled directly by the nerves, because the medulla is part of the nervous system. Okay, so that's why they are also secreting the adrenaline as well as the noradrenaline, which again helps in the passage of the stimulus. Okay, so this will explain us how the adrenal medulla is different from the adrenal cortex. So this is just a graph showing you how the angiotensin 1 is converted. The angiotensinogen is secreted in the produced in the liver. Then the angiotensinogen is converted to angiotensin 1 by the renin secreted by the kidney. Then angiotensin 1 to the angiotensin 2 is converted from angiotensin 1 to 2 by the angiotensin converting enzyme, which is produced in the lungs. And then from the angiotensin 2, angiotensin 2 will help in the arterial constriction as well as increased production of the aldosterone. Both help in the control of the blood pressure. Okay, which helps in the hypertension. Okay. Now coming to the chromaffin system, something called as chromaffin system. We have seen that the medulla are called as the chromaffin cells. They are chromaffin cells. Okay, so this is part of something called as the chromaffin system. So what is this chromaffin system? So chromaffin system is a group of cells which stain brown with potassium bichromate. I said the adrenal medulla will take a special stain called as the potassium bichromate, and it will be stained with that. So any other cell, whichever cells in the body which take up this potassium bichromate stain, and they stain themselves, those kind of cells, all these are grouped as one type of cells or system. They are called as the chromaffin system. So any group of cells which stain brown with potassium bichromate, these are all called as the chromaffin cells, and they are part of the chromaffin system. This is called as the chromaffin reaction. Whenever they take the potassium bichromate and stain themselves, that reaction is called as the chromaffin reaction. And the cells are called as the pheochromocytes or chromaffin cells. As I said, the medulla is also taking the stain and they show the chromaffin reaction, so they are called as chromaffin cells. Similarly, there are other parts of the body where these type of cells are present. They are few, but they are present. So which are those regions? So we'll see them. One is, as we already have seen, in the renal medulla, which are the chromaffin, part of the chromaffin system. These are the chromaffin cells. The second is the paraganglionic cells, paraganglionic fibers. Then the para-aortic bodies, the para-aortic bodies. Then the coccygeal body. In the coccyx, there are special bodies which also stain this stain. So these are also part of the chromaffin system. Then the masses of cells scattered among the ganglion of the sympathetic chain, splanchnius, autonomic plexus, as well as some cells close to the important organs like the liver, heart, kidney, ureter, prostate, epidermis, everywhere. These few cells are present which take this potassium bichromate. So all these cells together, they are called as the chromaffin cells, and the system is called as chromaffin system. And they are called, not only called as chromaffin cells, they are also called as the pheochromocytes, because there are special tumors developing from them. So these will be called as the named by the pheochromocytoma and other things, because they are coming from special cells called as the chromaffin cells, which are also called as the pheochromocytes. Okay, so they are present in the suprarenal medulla, paraganglion, para-aortic bodies, coccygeal bodies, as well as the scattered cells within the sympathetic chains, splanchnius, autonomic plexus, and some are close to important organs like liver, heart, kidney, ureter, prostate, epidermis, and other places. Okay, so all these are called as the chromaffin system. So the special and very important part of this is they are all developing from the same neural crest cells. So they all these are scattered in different parts of the body, but these are all present in the same, they are developing from the same site, that is the neural crest cells. And they secrete the same hormone called as the adrenaline as well as the noradrenaline. So if you even take out the renal medulla, there are other parts where still there will be secretion of the adrenaline as well as noradrenaline. This is again a very important part, especially in case of the surgeries. Okay, now coming to some applied aspects related to that. We will study more in detail about this. Here just to boast the importance of the adrenal gland, even though it is a very small gland, but it has very important functions and how it is clinically important. One is called as the Addison's disease. This is because of the deficiency of the mineralocorticoids. Okay, so what will be the mineralocorticoids which you have already seen? Okay, so here, so mineralocorticoids will be the especially the aldosterone secreted by the zona glomerulosa. So if there is any deficiency of this aldosterone, which will lead to condition called as the Addison's disease. So deficiency of the mineralocorticoids. So what will happen, how it is happened, it is caused by destruction of both the glands. And what is the condition, how do you diagnose? This is diagnosed by the increased skin pigmentation, muscular weakness, weight loss, as well as hypotension. So these are very important symptoms. With the skin pigmentation, there is also hypotension. Along with that, muscular weakness as well as weight loss. All these are symptoms which are seen in case of the Addison's disease. So just opposite to that is the excessive secretion of the mineralocorticoids. This is the deficiency of mineralocorticoids which leads to Addison's disease. Just the opposite is the excessive secretion of the mineralocorticoids, which leads to a condition called as the Conn's disease, Conn's syndrome or the Conn's disease. In this, instead of hypotension, here now it will be hypertension. But along with that, there will be hypokalemia. Hypokalemia. So these are the two very important symptoms which are seen in case of the signs or symptoms which are seen in the Conn syndrome. The third condition is called as the Cushing syndrome, a very important again syndrome of the disease, which is because of the usually cause of the not the problem in the adrenal gland, but the it is because of the pituitary adenoma. Okay, which leads to increased secretion of the adrenocorticotropic hormone ACTH, which will lead to excessive secretion of the glucocorticoids. This in turn will lead to a very typical presentation called as truncal obesity, hypertension, as well as the hysterism in case of female. What do you mean by hysterism? It is the development of the male features in a female, like the development of the beard or mustache or something else. Okay, so this is called as the hysterism. So these are the three very important symptoms which are because of the pituitary adenoma, which will lead to increased secretion of ACTH, and then which in turn will lead to increased secretion of the glucocorticoids. Okay, glucocorticoid is secreted from the middle layer, as we have already seen. So it is from the zona fasciculata, where it will be secreting the glucocorticoids, and it is controlled, as we have seen, it is by the ACTH. ACTH. Okay. Then now coming to the next syndrome, this is called as the adrenogenital syndrome. Adrenogenital syndrome. This is because of the excessive secretion of the adrenal androgens, where they are produced in the reticularis. Okay, so here there will be masculinization of the females, that is the male features in case of female, and precocious puberty in case of the male. Precocious early puberty in case of the males. Even though the child is very young, he will be seen just like a adult because of the precocious puberty. Okay, excessive development of the male features, which will lead to early adulthood. Okay, features. Okay, precocious puberty. Okay, this is because the excessive secretion of the adrenal androgen. Okay, then the last is the pheochromocytoma, which I was talking about. It is because of the tumors of the medulla. So medulla, the cells are chromatin cells, which are also called as the pheochromocytes. Pheochromocytes. So any tumor will be called as the oma. So it will be pheochromocytoma. Okay, tumor of the medulla, which will lead to excessive secretion of the catecholamines, and that will lead to a condition called as the paroxysmal hypertension. Paroxysmal hypertension. Okay, so these are some of the important applied aspects related to this gland, even though this gland is very small. Okay, which is the adrenal gland or the suprarenal gland, but it has very important clinical presentation. Okay, so that's why this becomes very important. Okay, so this is all about uh, the adrenal gland. uh, mm, so if you have any questions regarding this, you can ask me.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, if you don't have any questions, okay, thank you very much. And wish you all the best for tomorrow's examination.